remarks should be addressed to the board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if the person addressing the board has attempted to resolve a concern informally or through the district's complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. The board requests that all presentations be made in a courteous, respectful, and professional manner and asks that speakers monitor their own behavior. If you wish to speak during one of the open forums, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. Dr. Harrington, any comments?
Just wanted to point out marching season is upon us, and we have the HEB Drumline Contest, 8 a.m. Saturday at Pennington. I think a couple weeks later we'll have the big full marching contest, so that's always a fun event. And then College Night is Monday the 16th, 6 o'clock, Hearst Convention Center. So College Night, always a great time for our students to go learn more about the college of their choice.
All right. Any clarifications required?
None at this time.
All right. We're ready for open forum number 1. No cards. So at this time, the board is going to go into closed session. Pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, the board will adjourn into closed session. Pursuant to sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076. We do have multiple things that we're going to be going through tonight in closed session, so it will take a little bit longer than normal, but we'll get back as soon as we can. All right, at this time, the board will reconvene into open session. Thank you very much for your patience. I know we were in there for a while. Action item 6.01, consider approval of Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Administration.
I move that the board approve Katina Rhodes as the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Administration.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve Katina Rhodes as Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Administration. Please vote. That motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Rhodes. We always like to give anybody that we're voting on opportunity to introduce those who have come with them this evening.
Well, thank you, first of all, for approving me. I'm very excited to enter this new journey of my chapter. I'd like to introduce my wonderful husband, Keith Rhodes. My freshman daughter, who is a student at Central Junior High. Who also plays for Bell. She'll be playing varsity basketball. And my mother, who joined us, Kathy Goldberg. My two assistant principals from Central Junior High, Ben Curtin and Cindy Morgan, my right and left hand.
Congratulations. We're very excited and we can't wait to see what you do in that position. All right, we're ready for reports. 7.01, disbursements for the month of August 2024. Were there any questions on disbursements? (7.02) Cooperative Purchasing Fee Report for 2023-2024. Mr. Kerbo?
Good evening, all. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this annual requirement to you. It's according to Texas Education Code 440331, not 031, but 0331. Districts that participate in cooperative purchasing are required to bring a report to their governing board that reports our activity. And I've attached a list of cooperatives that we've joined. This district has joined and been a member of for a number of years. I think I counted 23. I don't know, but that list seems to be growing ever so much. And the fees that were incurred as a result of that, 4,000, and I know I have it right here. $4,050 for the year. Only 250 of that were management fees where we pay to use a cooperative. One is with the Central Texas Purchasing Alliance down in the Round Rock area, Austin, Round Rock area. They cover statewide purchasing contracts. And then the other is to participate in the state of Texas program administered by the Comptroller of Public Accounts. That's $100. The rest of those fees were for vehicles. We were very active in purchasing vehicles last year. We purchased 23 5 buses and the remainder of those various white fleet vehicles that we needed to replace our current ones or add to our existing fleet. So that is the report.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay, 7.03, technology update. Dr. Hopkins?
Hello. I am here with Stacy Birch. She is our coordinator of instructional technology, and we're excited to bring information to you about our district approach to AI and how we are working with our students and our teachers and our staff in the system. So this is in alignment with our strategic plan, effectiveness and efficiency, quality indicator 4. Our goal is that 100% of classroom teachers will demonstrate proficiency in using technology to design student-centered lessons. So we have developed a mindset in HEB ISD, and we recognize AI's role in our education. We are also working to use age-appropriate methods to enhance learning for future careers. We support post-secondary readiness for our students and helping them to use technologies in ways that are going to prepare them for the future.
Hi. So we split AI, the programs, into 2 different categories. The first one is teacher-facing, which is designed to simplify a workflow and help teachers enhance their instruction of our HEB curriculum, and that's what we focused on in that realm. Student-facing is our other category, and we want to help the students and support them with their learning experience. So we will want to teach them the appropriate ways to use AI and how they might be using it in the future. But it's really important to us to hold them accountable and to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that it is safe for them and the appropriate use that they will need at their age level. So we, as of right now, do not have any HEB student AI platforms that require any accounts to sign into. We follow all of their age restrictions on the site. So for right now, our AI sites that they integrate with are things that the teacher has used AI that they might create in the lesson. So while they're not actually on the AI, we're still teaching them ways to use it or how they could interact with it while they do so. We do want to introduce our students to many different things, and we don't want to hold them back, but the 5 things that we're going to teach and train on this year from the Ed Tech department are Brisk, Curipod, Magic School, ChatGPT, and Diffit. All of these are teacher-facing. Curipod does do interactive presentations for the kids, so while they're using the curriculum, it will add interactive pieces, and the kids can join that through a code to keep them safe and all of their PII offline. And then Diffit, Magic School, and Brisk help teachers to differentiate and streamline their workflow.
So while we understand that students are not permitted to readily access AI within the school system and on our technology, we also understand that they have access to technology outside of our school. So what we are working with our students on and our teachers is understanding how to cite any AI-generated instructional materials for parts of lesson plans or for student writing or any other student assignments. It is important for them to understand that they must cite it and that they must use it appropriately. So we are having age-appropriate discussions surrounding AI in order to better prepare them for the tools that they may have access to outside of our system. We are also, as we discussed earlier tonight, we also protect personally identifiable information, and we work with our students and mostly our staff on understanding that while we can use AI as a tool within our district, we are not permitted to provide any PII into the AI systems. We do understand that that is part of what is used to train a lot of these ChatGPT or GPTs and other bots, so we want to make sure that we are not providing information that will stay in that system forever. So while we can provide content, we're not providing PII. With all of our trainings, we do offer a disclaimer. We understand that the AI world is ever changing and it is changing quickly. So we are working to make sure that we are continually revisiting the processes that we look at. So part of our process is reviewing all of the acceptable use policies, privacy policies that we have within our systems. An example is before we left for summer, ChatGPT was open for our high school students. It was an age-appropriate tool to be used at that level. Over the summer, their policy changed. And it became 18 and older with parent permission. So we had to go back and we took the tool off and our students are not able to access it. So then we notified everybody of the change, but it was a change that something we prepared for in one direction and had to make a shift at the last minute. And so, we just want to make sure that staff understands that while we're being forward and we're embracing the technology that is out there, we're also very much paying attention to what the rules are and the policies are surrounding it, so that we're doing everything we can to keep our students and our staff and our data safe. And then we are always here, so when in doubt, we ask our teachers to reach out to us. We're happy to sit, to teach, to train, to discuss, and to work on any work that they would like to do in ways that they can streamline their work for more effectiveness and efficiency. Do you have any questions?
Joe or Lindsay, I have a question, but this may be getting too much into the details of the weeds. If we identify, let's say, a particular assignment that a student has done, and it comes to our conclusion that it's, in this hypothetical situation, is totally generated with AI, what does the penalty for that look like? I mean, it's not the case of a student not turning in the work, but it's obviously not their work.
So it is outlined in our handbook, correct, Dr. Johnson, handbook? So it's outlined in our handbook as part of our academic integrity policy. And then we have an AI task force that is made up of members of the curriculum team and the technology team. And we have worked to start writing that to more readily define what academic integrity in relation to AI looks like. It will be something that we are writing this year in preparation for approval next year.
Excellent.
We've talked about it too, is we're not going to be afraid of AI. AI is here and it's not going. It's like being afraid of a calculator. That's the newest tool. So if this is where the tool takes us, where do we go next? So that's going to be the big pieces that we have to understand is what are our students capable of doing and going now that this tool is in place to give them the beginning, but what are they going to do with the information they get?
Yeah, as we write that, it would be wise of us to have some of our students in the room. I've had this conversation with my Trojan Talk kids, and they are very conscientious of how they use it and what it can mean for them, but they want to find ways to embrace it. So I think we could learn a lot by including our kids in that conversation.
I 100% agree.
Before there were cars, we didn't have a bunch of road rules, right? And now we have books and books of them. So over time, it'll develop, and we'll figure out the right ways to use things. So. All right, any other questions? All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, review of regular board agendas, item 8.01, financial statements for the month of July 2024. Mr. Williams.
Good evening. As we start to wind down the 2024 fiscal year, we'll be looking at the financial statements for ending July 31st, 2024. Disclaimer, none of this was generated with artificial intelligence. This is all real deal. So, anyway, with that, we will move on.
Adobe's old school.
Yeah, old school. We do the old school way. There you go. So the general fund, we have a fund balance of $157,765,529. That's represents expenditures over revenues of $13,430,119. As I said last month, we're still waiting on a payment from TEA, our final payment of the year. Should be getting that. Oh, I think we've already received it. It's just not on the books yet. So that'll be showing up next month, should. Investment interest revenue for the year as of this reporting period was $7,030,122 compared to $5,967,954 for this same reporting period last year. Total expenditures as of the end of July were at 84.30%, so within our 92% number we compare that with. So that fund is performing as we expect it to. The general fund expenditure matrix, we have payroll in the amount of $168,49208, which is 86%. As I've said in the past months, we've got some other expenditure categories that are a little higher, AKA property insurance. that's kind of skewing that number. So that number will probably end up landing at 86 and not the 87, 88% we typically see. Utilities at 2%, came in at 3.8 million, instructional supplies at 2.9, and of course the other expenditures, which is where that insurance increase is, came in at 2.9 also. Child Nutrition Fund, we had a fund balance of 8,980,117. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of 2,416,756. That department, as I say every month, operates very well. Mary Ellis does a great job. We're running fairly normal with our vacancies, maybe a little higher right now, but still within the norms of what we look for every month. Total expenditures at 7/31 were at 92.38%, and of course, last year they're done, so that should end up being right, pretty close to where it lands for the year. So that fund is performing as expected. Debt service fund, fund balance of 63,744,327. That's revenues over expenditures in the amount of 42,208,106. Of course, we made a debt payment back in February. We made the final debt payment for the year in August, and we made those on time, before time, for a total debt service for the year of 46,318,855. Tuition-based pre-K fund, that has a fund balance of 430,764. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of 241,287. Revenue received as of this reporting period was 104.82% of budgeted. Total expenditures at 7/31 were at 82.13% of budget, so within the threshold. Special revenue funds, those funds total expenditures were at 7/31 were at 66.22, but as I say every month, those mini funds made up of state programs, federal programs, and unused funds roll to the next year. So these funds are operating as expected. That's very normal for this time of year, 66.22%. So, and as we also say, expenditures exceed revenues due to the lag in reimbursement. Spend it first, and then they pay us back later. So, campus activity fund, 3,262,163 in fund balance. That's expenditures over revenues in the amount of 69,119,000. Revenues for the period increased by 128,000, while the expenditures increased by 106. So they're raised a little more than they spent this go around. So that's pretty normal activity for that fund. The 2018 bond fund. We are going to get rid of this fund. I'm going to say it one last time. We've actually.
Be careful, don't say one last time.
Well, maybe next month will be the last time. We've decided, Janice and I, to close this out with this fiscal year. It's her fault. So what we're going to do is we're taking that money away from her. No. No. We're actually probably going to close this fund out and reclassify some expenditures from Bel Air and they're eligible to be paid out of bond funds and then move those monies over into out of the locally defined, and then as their bills, when they do finally come in, we'll pay them out of them. So we're just going to swap funds and close that out, kind of clean it up for this year. That's our plan. So anyway, then we'll be done with this fund. And another year, yes, sir. The 2024 bond funds, we have a fund balance of 584,472,340. That's revenues over expenditures in the amount of 585,894,043. Of course, we sold those bonds in February, received the proceeds in March. To date, the district has made $11,563,734 in interest earnings since March. So keep in mind, we are in an arbitrage situation. We will have to probably send some of that back to the IRS, which they will calculate all that up and tell us we're doing all we can to keep that from happening. But if we were spending money a little faster, it'd be better. But we're spending as fast as we can. The locally defined capital projects fund, fund balance of $29,771,715. That represents expenditures over revenues in the amount of $17,571,040. And y'all all, you know, the projects were funded out of this fund, baseball, softball, different things, buses, maintenance vehicles, half of Bel Air, basically. And that's really it. We should be getting, when we close out Bel Air, we should, we'll get some money coming back from that project, and those monies will go back into this fund. So should be a substantial amount of money. So that is it, unless somebody has questions.
Any questions on financial statements? All right. Thank you, Dobie. 8.02, self-certification for increase of micro purchase threshold.
This is another annual required item to take advantage of a provision that was implemented in 2020 in conjunction with the pandemic and the difficulty it was to purchase from contractors using federal funds and getting multiple quotes. So they allowed districts to increase their threshold for micro purchases, which are basically defined as purchases anything under $50,000 using federal funds. And do that. To be able to do that, district had to be a low risk or low audit risk, and we've been that throughout our history. So that was not an issue. So this requires board action to be able to continue that indefinitely until somebody decides they want to repeal this and we go back to how things were. We hope that doesn't happen, but you never know.
All right. Any questions on self-certification? All right. 8.03, renewal of RFP 22-22 and RFP 22-22B for special education contract therapy services.
Thank you. These are two concurrent bids. 22-22 was the initial bid, and a supplemental bid was approved the following year. And this provided us to contract with various contracted services, occupational therapy, speech pathologists, and so forth for use with our special ed department on an as-needed basis.
Any questions on these RFPs? All right, next one, our renewal of RFP 23-16 for travel management and related services for district-wide use.
Again, this is just an extension of an existing agreement that allows campuses and employees for travel can manage their travel through these services. There are a number of vendors that specialize in specific trips related to students, and not all of them can do the same trips. So we've identified those, secured their services, and asking the board to renew that for another year.
All right, any questions on this RFP? All right, thank you, Mr. Kerbo. 8.05, the 2024-2025 District Improvement Plan. All right, we weren't going to have a presentation on this. I think everyone knows that the work of the district is listed out in our strategic plan. I always have a hard time with strategic plan. So that becomes our District Improvement Plan. Did anyone have any questions on this? Okay, action items. 9.01, consider approval of donations for the September regular board meeting presentation of certificates of appreciation.
I move the board approve the September 2024 donations as presented.
I have a motion, a second, for the board to approve the September 2024 donations as presented. Please vote. She does have another one open next to it. That happens to me sometimes. That motion passes. 9.02, consider approval of agreement for the purchase of attendance credit and delegate contractual authority to the superintendent.
Okay, each year, TEA runs their calculations on what constitutes a Chapter 49 district or a recapture district and what does not. And we fall within that threshold every year, even though we don't pay into recapture. We're in that gap, that bubble where we're close enough that we could if certain things changed within like if our values went way up and our enrollment just took a nosedive, then we could possibly have to pay into some recapture. That's not going to happen. I do not anticipate that we will, because they do everything after the fact. So anyway, this is just a part of that process, and they do that all online. So what we have to do, we have to decide what our method is to purchase attendance credits, and then we have to delegate that authority to Dr. Harrington as the superintendent. He's the only one that can do that, and go online and certify that and submit it to TEA. And that has to be done by January 15th. So we've got plenty of time, but just taking care of the nuts and bolts of that, so.
All right, does anyone have any questions on this? Then I'll accept a very long motion.
For the 2024-2025 school year, we delegated contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code 11.1511 C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49, Subchapter A and B, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006. This included approval of the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit for the agreement of the purchase of attendance credit, netting Chapter 48 funding.
Second.
I move.
And yes, that is a TEA requirement
Yeah,
to say all that.
so Fred made the second. So I have a motion and a second for the 2024-2025 school year. We delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code 11.1511 C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48-257 and TEC Chapter 49, Subchapter A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006 to include approval of the agreement for the purchase of the attendance credit or the agreement for the purchase of the attendance credit, netting Chapter 48 funding. Please vote. And that motion passes. 9.03, consider settlement agreement in Crystal Turner versus HEB ISD.
I've shared with you information about this settlement. Do you have any questions?
Hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the settlement agreement and general release as submitted.
I have a motion and second for the board to approve the settlement agreement and general release as submitted. Please vote. Has everyone voted? Yeah. All right. And that motion passes. 9.04, consider approval of preliminary agreement for construction management services. Mr. Kerbo?
All right. As you know, in August, at the August board meeting, the trustees voted to approve HPM or HOR Program Management LLC to serve as construction management consultants for our bond program. At the time, we didn't have a negotiated agreement. We still do not have one, but we're working toward that. Trustees, I believe Mr. Brown asked us to move this along so we could utilize those services. And to do that, we created or asked in partnership with HPM to create an initial or preliminary agreement to begin working. And the reason it's important for this is, one, we're well down the road with all of our primary construction projects with Bell and Trinity and the 4 elementary replacement schools, as well as some other lesser projects in the from an expense standpoint, but albeit equally important with Hurst-Hills or the Hurst Junior High addition, the renovations at 2100 Plaza and 1701 West Euless Boulevard. I think that's all we got kind of underway right now, but so this will get us started, and will give HPM the authorization needed to be able to start reviewing documents, estimating budgets, reviewing those to see if they're adequate, and provide the types of services that will generate the value that they can bring in providing consulting, construction management consultant services. I'll stop there, because I know there's going to be some questions.
All right, I mean, the board has been given a copy of this preliminary agreement. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm just interested in the scope of work that's been set out here. The initial 5 items. Can you give me an idea of what we're seeking to achieve in each of these? What our goals are as far as this initial preliminary portion of the project?
This is a standard procedure for program management services or construction management. To start reviewing budgets, start reviewing construction plans, attend meetings where on behalf of the district to participate, see what the projects are, and look at it obviously from another set of eyes than those that have been looking at the design plans and the budgets and so forth, and again, providing that value that they can provide with this. So any other questions? Josh may be able to answer. We also have some folks from HPM here that might be able to provide additional insight for this.
Just to add a little bit to that, we'd like to do the project controls to be able to help us internally for pay-app reviews. We'd like to be able to really establish tight budgets to be able to show you and better explain what we're doing, where we're doing it, and how much we're spending for that. So I think we'd be able to provide a better picture for that. Tomorrow, we're going to have the bid openings for our subs for Wilshire and Hurst-Hills. Really would like to have somebody to be a part of that to help us start looking at that GMP, because when we bring that to you really soon, and I'd really could appreciate some assistance with that.
Okay, so how far is this initial $100,000 going to get us until we see you back for the full picture?
We'd like to be coming back as soon as possible to be able to do that. We just want to try to, like you said, respect your sense of urgency, but at the same time, want to respect we want to get that scope accurate. And so we've talked about this a number of different ways. We want to be efficient with the funds as well. And so we've gone worst case and we've gone the least case, and we're trying to find that accurate picture to be able to bring to you. Don't really feel like we've been able to do that just yet.
So if we agree to this initial starter package, but we don't like what you bring back later, where does that leave us?
Then I'll have to go back to the drawing board, make sure we get the right scope, and try to revisit that.
So I mean, obviously that would be a setback, but I don't want to take an initial step and then feel like we're absolutely tied in to something that we don't know the full scope of and we don't know the full cost of. It just makes me nervous to kind of get going down one road, because when you start going down that road, it may be hard to turn around and do something else. Mm-hmm. So that's the big concern I have with it. But in terms of all the work product and stuff like that, HEB will own anything that's generated
Absolutely.
out of all this.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Josh, let's make sure we are answering that. So if we enter into this agreement and we're not able to continue the agreement, what would be then our next step?
That would be to go back to the list of vendors that responded. We did have we had 7 respond. We ranked all of them, and we interviewed 3. And we could go back to the second place vendor and negotiate a similar package to get them to provide services.
All right, so I understand as, wanting to get this next step done soon, but that still doesn't give us we don't know if that's at our regular board meeting later this month or at our work session next month, or what, do we have a goal in terms of when we're trying to get
We've
this?
got a master agreement under review right now. We think we can get it completed fairly quickly, be able to bring it back to you at the next opportunity. If that is September 23rd, then we'll work toward that. If not, it'll be the first board meeting in October.
All right. Any other questions? I mean, I know, this board supports getting this, all these projects done as professionally and with as much, oversight as we can within reason. And we're not trying to kill you, Josh. We know that there's a lot of work going on, and that it needs to be done right, and we have to make sure that we're paying our bills correctly and that we're paying for the right stuff when we need to pay for it. But we also don't want to be irresponsible by investing in something that we don't know where it's going, because this is still, in my mind at least, it's still a big, it's a bit fuzzy in terms of what we're getting in the scope and how much it's going to cost and all that. So
Understood.
Yeah, I think before we jump off into the full agreement, I mean, when we talked about this a month or so ago, I don't think we anticipated this being in a piecemeal fashion. I mean, I appreciate the urgency with which you want to get this in place for this small portion, or this initial portion. But I think that before we jump off onto the final portion, please bring us exactly what we have gotten for this portion of the $100,000. I mean, it pales in comparison to the larger bond package, but it's still a lot of money, and I don't think we know exactly what we're getting. I think are you folks here from? Mm-hmm. Well, I'd love to hear from you on what you.
It's Pierre and Ben. There are folks from HPM.
What is the first thing we're going to be starting to see from you guys?
So one of the first thing we'll do is look at all the schedules that may be across the different projects, put them together into a master schedule, just to make sure the entire bond is sound, and that we're not looking just in silos at each project. Do the same thing for the budget. Trying to see, because right now we're looking at the phase 0, and try to see a bit along the life of the project where we will land, to make sure we're not spending all the funds at the beginning and then we come at the end on the last GMP and the funds are short. Review the pay applications. There's a work that's going on right now, and so make sure that those pay applications have all the backup documentation required by the contracts, and just make sure the funds again are properly spent. And then look at the contracts. We'd like to take a look at the contracts, provide some comments on how to potentially either do an amendments or improve on future contracts that are being signed with CIMA or just general contractors, and as well the chargements on the GMPs. That's going to be a big one, looking at the subcontracts, just make sure, again, that the scope is accurate, that what they're charging in terms of, overhead profit or kind of insurance kind of rates, things like that, all of that is being, again, charged per the contract and in line with the scope of work that's being put in.
all right. So that's what we're doing in this phase is all okay.
Yeah, provide recommendation comments on where you guys are at, and then also, help with day-to-day whatever Josh might need in terms of, again, pay application, meeting attendance, things like that.
All right. Any additional questions? Anything else you guys would like to know about? All right. I'll accept a motion.
I move the board approve the preliminary agreement and expenditure with HPM in the amount not to exceed $100,000 as presented.
I have a motion and second for the board to approve the preliminary agreement and expenditure with HPM in an amount not to exceed $100,000 as presented. Please vote. Yes. We're really close, Megan, just a little bit more. And that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We're ready for open forum number 2. No cards. Other business, opportunity for board members to request items be placed on future board agendas. Does anybody have anything this evening? Review of board activity chart. I'm sorry, it got stuck here and I did not
Okay,
move
while you
it
take a
on.
look at that, could I take a moment?
Sure.
So there's something that just got added in the last couple of days that I want the other board members to be aware of, if you have opportunity in your schedule. We've been working with Representative Salman Boujani on multiple things, and through that process of getting to know his staff better, they asked if there's ever opportunities for the representative to, visit schools or whatever. So we made the invitation to the representative to visit with the Junior World Affairs Council at their first meeting of the year at Trinity High School. And he has agreed to attend, and that will be next Thursday, the 12th, at 4:30 in the Trinity Library. No, it's not on there. This is my little note, so I'm letting you know. This coming Thursday, the 12th, at 4:30 at the Trinity High School Library. Julia Wilson is the teacher for JWAC, and she's got anywhere between, she's not fully sure yet how many kids will attend, but it's usually somewhere between 50 and 60. And so he's going to be speaking to them. 4:30.
I thought you were going to mention why Trojan Talk got added on here. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Oh, no.
Okay.
This wasn't added because this just happened.
This is my first time seeing Trojan Talk.
Well,
on
Trojan
there.
Talk's not on the board activity chart, but it is on the
No,
dates.
I'm saying, I thought she was talking to that because that's
Okay.
the first time I saw it on here.
Yeah, no.
All right, looks like,
Matt, I have a question.
Yeah.
Last week when I was talking to the construction people, you said I couldn't talk to them because it wasn't on the agenda, correct? That wasn't on the agenda. What's the difference?
well, it is an activity chart item that she's,
Anything having to do with elected officials is something that we can speak to during the activity chart.
I give.
all right, so it looks like everything is covered through October except for the NLF membership breakfast meeting. I don't know if there's anybody who wants to attend to that. Yeah, it's October 8th, 8 to 9:30. Okay, put you down, okay. Fred Campos. All right, we do not need a second closed session, is that correct? Then I will accept a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.